they probably got a quieter setting too.
Okay. First, let me thank you for coming on N.O.R.T.H Media. Never Outside Ranking Hate. Your story will be the first to launch on this platform for moms and nervous souls. So let's start with introducing yourself.
Hi, I'm Shawana Edmond. I'm the mother of Donovan Thomas. He was unalive on January the 10th, 2015. And I met Andrea. She reached out maybe about a year ago, if I'm not mistaken. But me, I just kind of was sitting at home and went through my phone and I saw her message and I reached out and here I am.
So your son, Donovan Thomas, aka N.O.R.T.H,
yes,
okay, was a huge part of the YSL trail.
Yes,
tell us a little about that. Talk about that.
Well, to be honest, it's not difficult to talk about, but it was a trial. It's a moment in my history, something I would never forget. Unbelievable how it turned out, but you know what? I just say it's all in God's plan. We're glad it's over. I'm now finding a little closure. I'm still in peace a little, but I'm still going through the process of how things happen. Still not understanding the reason why the verdict it was. The verdict came out to what it was, but you know what? Like I said, at the end of the day, it's all in God's plan.
And if anything I mentioned or asked you don't want to talk about, just say. It was mentioned in the trial that he was a part of the gang. Is that true?
True. And I can say, but speaking of gang, I can hear all this stuff that the hype came with the social media, and people not knowing who my child was. But you know, he's part of the gang. Gang can come in many perspectives. As me learning the child that I raised and who I brought into this world, he wasn't a gang banger. Gang can mean organized crime, and when people say gang, you have to kind of understand gangs come from different perspectives. And he was the type of person, he joined a gang, but not to go out there and unalive people or do anything bad to people. It was all about bringing unity into the community and making sure that, you know, his people kind of got ahead. So from me losing him, I understood the different types of gangs that was out there and what he meant when he joined the gang and what he was trying to do when he joined the gang.
So, it was January 10th, 2015, correct?
Yeah.
I know that was the worst day of your life. On that day, you were inducted not willingly into a network that I myself have been a part of for, it'll be 20 years for me, and next month on the 15th. So on that day, tell us, what were you doing? Was it a normal day? How did you find out?
It was a normal day. I was at my flea market. I had my own thrift store, and my baby called me. We was talking. That day, probably been about, he didn't remember the exact time, but I know it was that day. He called. We were just having a casual conversation. He was a little different. He was with a friend. You know, he was with some friends, and he was just talking. I normally talk, Mom, how you doing? I love you. What's for dinner? You know, just a normal. I can't go back verbatim what the conversation was about, but I know I did talk. We did talk like we normally do every day, all day, about what was next or what we were doing when he got home or when I got home, because he had his own space, but he came to my house.
Sounds like
yeah, we had a very close relationship with my baby, so that day was just a normal day. And no one could have ever told me that I would have gotten that phone call saying that my baby had been shot.
It sounds so familiar. It sounds so familiar, because same with me. Me and my son were very close. And it was just a normal day.
Unbreakable bond that we had. It was like we were almost like brothers and sisters, because when people say, because I've never been married, my children, he has an older brother, and he has always been the center of my life. That's what my attention always lied on. And people say having pillow talk, me and Donovan had pillow talk.
Yeah.
Up until he's on the line, and my baby, I could come home, he and my baby. And we're talking about just everyday life, what's going on. And so we pillow talked, and we had conversations daily about, you know, I get emotional, but yeah, we had conversations daily about just life. And him loving on me, and I'm loving on him. And That's what I miss.
And that is, I mean, that's the thing I miss the most too, is just the conversations with my son. And I just feel like my son loved me more than anybody on this earth.
Oh, you saying what and I know it's no person that we would love more than God, and I don't put no man, woman, or child before God.
Right.
But my children was that next person that I was, and then God first, then my kids. So that's where my hurt comes from. Listening to him, just the conversations, the phone calls, the birthdays, the holidays.
Do you have anything that have like recordings of his voice or voicemails or
His
anything
dad
like that?
does, but I lost all mine. His phone. I had access to his phone, and during his unaliving, maybe 2 years, I left the phone on top of my car. And I went back and I realized the retreat was something I had rolled over. But I am in the process of now, I think they may release his phone to me from the court. So hopefully they give me that phone, I'll have a little, some more connection with him. Besides pictures. But I do remember his dad's wife said that his dad still have a recording on his phone, his voice. And I do have some pictures of this rapper he was involved with. He has some voices of him. I have videos. I do have videos and messages from social media that people have shared with me. I do.
That's good.
Yes.
Did you play any part at all in the investigation process of your son's?
Oh yes, anything I could find out or tell or whatever happened, anything that was coming to me, I was, whatever I could do, I was definitely, any question they asked, I was there to give feedback.
Right. So what was your experience with the judicial system, Fulton County DA office?
To be honest, I heard a lot. 10 years, my baby was unalived January 10, 2015. Paul Howard was his attorney. Okay. Not Miss Willis. Right. Not Madam J. Willis. So everybody have their opinions about Fanning and her team, but my opinion is I think they did a good job. Based on to the point where they got me to, because I waited 10 years for this. 9. It was in Paul Howard's office up until Fannie got in office, and she brought me in and said, we're going to try to bring you a little closure with your son's case. And I guess, I don't know, she didn't give me the ins and outs on the investigation, but I know he was a part of the investigation, what was going on, and he was included in the process of getting some closure with that, because like I said, I had been in Paul Howard's office since 2015.
You said you hadn't been?
I had been waiting since 2015. We was just waiting. We was calling every day, all day, with just questions and answers, and everything was still being investigated. It was always everything was still being investigated.
So what was he saying? What was Paul Howard saying?
They had people. He really couldn't tell us anything. Everything was basically confidential, so I can't really go but speak on what was said and how things were said. But we were in contact with detectives and his team during that process, and they were just gathering information. They were just gathering information. They had leads they were going on, but of course COVID came. Now COVID set us back during the process because I think 2020 COVID was it?
Yeah, 2020.
2020, everything stood still for 3 years.
Right.
So when the elections start back up, everybody start back voting. I just Paul Howard lost the election, and it went to Madam J. Fanning, and that's when they would start reaching back out from the DA's office. Which they had to bring their own investigation team in. So everything kind of got thrown behind because they couldn't use the evidence that Paul Howard originally had. So they had to bring their own investigation team in to try to go back. So everything then became cold, circumstantial.
So basically, what you're saying then is once Paul Howard was out, they basically started the investigation all over?
Right, because it became the RICO trial.
Oh, okay.
So other people, other co-defendants on that trial it became one big trial. So everything was brought together from what I'm gathering and what I'm understanding. It became a RICO trial, not just a murder trial for my son.
Let me ask you this though. Do you think it would have been better if they wouldn't have did the RICO and just charged them individually? Or, you know what I mean?
As I sit back and analyze and think, I think it would have been better.
Yeah.
So I don't know what decision they reached, but for us as a family, we were just glad that we was getting to some type of resolution with his case.
Right.
So if we was like, okay, the RICO, and why not? And their questions get answered to me all the time. People ask me that question all the time. do we think it would have been better if it was just been the murder of Donovan Thomas and him not being brought into the RICO trial?
Yeah, exactly.
And as I sit back today and analyze, I think we would have got a better outcome.
Exactly.
Instead of sitting there going through that process. Because some of the people, as you know, that were in the courtroom were not on Donovan's case. So some of those guys in that courtroom.
Some of the defendants?
Right.
Right.
Yeah, those co-defendants, they were not on Donovan's case. Exactly. They was a part of the RICO trial.
Exactly. That's why I asked you that. Do you think it would be better if they would have just...
I think so. And it was hard for us as a family sitting there just going through that process. And I think it was another person that they were accused of unaliving. His name was Peanut also. I'm not sure if you followed the case, but there was another young man there.
Brinks?
Yeah, Brinks, yes. You know, I met his mom through the process, Chandra.
Okay.
And they were responsible for his death also, from what I was told.
Okay.
Yeah, and his son, he was little there because I never forget Miss Love and Madam D.A. They always, distinguished them by Little Nut and Big Nut because my son was much bigger. And the other little guy, he was real small frame, petite.
So what did you think of Miss Love?
Well, I hadn't worked with her probably about, I think she was fair. I think she was honest. And I think she did a great job, to be honest. Because she came in, because she wasn't a member of Paul Howard's team. She came in expanding, and she came from a whole nother spectrum. So I think they did they did a pretty good job. I mean, in my opinion, I think things could have been said and worded different just by talking with family and friends. But overall, I think they did a pretty good job.
Because there was times, I'm just going to be honest with you, where she drove me straight crazy.
Yeah, a lot of people say that. And a lot of people say that.
Sometimes, and it was like, will you shut up? She would go on and
because even people had their opinion when she brought me on the stand.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, because I didn't like you when, and this is just me, like,
because I need people to give me their feedback, because me and his dad.
At some point, I felt like she got a little, what's the word? I felt like a little aggressive. She got loud at one point. I can't remember what the question is. I have to go back and watch the video.
But I think that's just because even doing the interviews behind the scenes, that was her voice.
Really?
Even behind her scenes, her voice has this high pitch.
Because I just felt like you are the mother of Donovan Thomas, and he was unalive, and I just felt like, you should be treated with kid gloves, even, under the testimony and stuff, and there was just one word, and maybe it
You have to go back and watch it. You have to go back and...
Yeah, it just hit another, like, because her voice went from one tone to, it went from here to up here, and I guess I just didn't understand.
And like I said, behind it, and I kind of see what people were saying, because even behind the scenes, when we talked before we went to the court, her voice was kind of, she was kind of, maybe it was just me not really tuning a lot of things out too.
Yeah, you
for me,
myself,
I'm in a different mindset than everyone else, because I'm just trying to get a little closure, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm sitting here. I couldn't believe I was sitting in that courtroom. I watched that because during the trial we would never view. We were always behind the cameras, but the defendants were sitting across from us. If I wasn't staring at them, I was staring at the clock.
Right.
Because I was still not believing it. I'm sitting here. I was like a movie.
So was you there every day?
Almost. I tried to be when I could, but of course, we weren't paid to be there, and parking was $20 a day.
No.
So you know how long they tried went on 2 years, and parking was $20 a day, and we didn't get reimbursed for any of that. We just had to be there because we couldn't park on the side because the days were long.
Right.
And basically, to be honest, we were almost in and out the courtroom every day because it was almost recessed. It was like they couldn't reach an agreement. When Gladman was on the stand, I think we walked out that place 10 times a day just for.
What do you think about when that shift came?
It's like it was all playing.
When they got
really Glanville.
Okay. So I know we left off. I was asking about what you thought about the shift in the judges when they, what was his name?
Glanville.
Mm-hmm. When they had that ex parte meeting. What did you think about that? All of that.
And my reviews were so mixed on that. Basically, I just knew that I felt Glenville was doing a good job. I really thought he was doing, based on him having how many excuse me, wait a minute, the co-defendants there. Because usually going to a courtroom, you have more than just one co-defendant or two. But when you go into a courtroom, you have six co-defendants.
Yeah, there were 6.
Six co-defendants, 6 different attorneys, and all this coming at you. I think he did a great job with his patience. I mean, I know sometimes he kind of went overboard with the state and with the defense attorneys, but in my opinion, I thought he should have stayed on the bench. But of course, social media had a lot to do with him being off the bench, due to him being biased.
What do you mean when you say social media had a lot? What do
I
you
mean, they were
that?
just saying he was biased, he was unfair, he was this. They made it seem like him and the state was working together, which they were not, because they were two totally separate entities. He was the judge, and there were members of the Fulton County DA's department. So to sum that up a little bit, I think the judge just came on. Her name just went from me because I was
Whitaker.
Whitaker. I was not pleased with Whitaker at all.
Oh, really?
No, you like Whitaker? And see, everybody have their views. I do commend her for moving the case along.
Yeah, she moved it along.
And I think she was rushing it along in certain parts.
She did move it along. The problem I had with Glanville was he just... sometimes it appeared to me, and I'm watching, on YouTube watching it. It just sometimes appeared to me that he was letting love run stuff. Like when a judge makes a ruling, that's supposed to be your ruling. She would keep talking and talking and talking and talking, and then he would change it, and that bothered me because I'm like, you can't let this woman. You can't let her talk you out of the decisions you make.
I kept hearing people say that, but maybe I was missing it because I was tuned in, but I wasn't tuned in.
Yeah, that's
me being there as a victim. And so I say victim, that meaning my son was the victim. I was just seeing everything. I was seeing things in a different light that people who watching it from YouTube was doing. So my views, and when I go back and look at it, I did, and I really don't care to go back and look at some of the,
I get it.
things that happened, because there were highlights that they were putting on YouTube that people were sending me when they were saying that the state was making, which they were making mistakes, and I kind of, the family on both sides, which my family, we kind of caught something because they was watching from the YouTube point or the live TV point. Right. So it was some things I did disagree with, but overall, I think it's, to be honest, it's really hard. That case was hard.
It was.
That was a very hard case for the judges, the DAs, and even I don't think I would say it's even the defense lawyers.
And you know what, the part, from my understanding, because I don't know nothing about the law,
right?
But from my understanding, where Judge Glanville messed up at is having the ex parte is not illegal. Where he messed up at is when it was brought to his attention, and then I think it was I can't remember if it was Weinstein, one of the motions or something he made, then he's supposed to then stop and hand it over to some other judge to look at whatever. I think that's where he messed up at, and that's why the other judge that looked over it was able to remove him.
So I thought he stopped at one point that's when he sent it to another judge to review.
He did, but he didn't do it right away when it was brought to his attention. Okay. He still then continued. I believe it was Woody that was on the stand. Woody still came back on the stand and still testified for another 2 days to a week or something like that. Right. And so he really was supposed to stop right when, I think it was Weinstein brought something to his attention or some motion or whatever, and he refused to, and he kept going.
I can speak on not Glanville defense or the state's defense, but in that defense, it's when they had the ex parte meeting, that new lady came in, Kayla Bumpus. She messed a lot of things up too. She did things that she should not have done, which is go and tell, because the defense attorneys didn't know about the meeting. She went out and told them about the meeting.
You think it was her?
Yeah, Ms. Bumpus, and I can say it now. I haven't met the young lady, but she was so on the defense team, because even on a couple of occasions when we walked out having recess, she was always down there with the defense. But she said she didn't know them, but she knew them.
Because I was under the understanding...
Kayla Bumpus knew those people. I mean, she can't say her name, but Bumpus knew those people, because even when we was having our recess, each time we went outside that courtroom, because we never were in separate quarters, we're always in the same quarters, was in the hallway. She was always down
Well,
there.
she
with
definitely
the
knows him
team.
because I mean I'm sure
She
you
married,
know now
yeah.
she's married.
Oh,
to,
yeah,
she's married to Shannon, so she
and
definitely knows.
she worked
them.
in the DA's office prior to this case. She worked in the DA's office in like 2000, during the time my son unalive. Maybe after, was it after Donovan's death? But
See, I was under the impression.
So she was familiar with the case, basically.
Right.
Because she worked in the DA's office. Whether it was with Paul Howard, whatever she was familiar with the case itself.
Right. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so my thoughts are...
Now, see, I didn't know that. I didn't know that she... I think I've heard her mention one time or another that she did used to work in the DA's office. But I didn't put the timeline together, so she was there and knew the case. I didn't know that. But going back to who told... I was under the impression, because that's definitely who Glanville thought told. I was under the impression that it was one of the deputies that would actually told him first, and then the defense, whatever defense attorneys, then went to Kayla and start questioning Kayla, and then Kayla was confirming that this is what happened and da 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 da.
And see, with me, you could be true because I always was seeing what I saw being in the courtroom, so I automatically thought that she was the one who went and told about the case. Because you see, what's his name? The attorney who was going to get held in contempt. He refused to tell. He still, I don't think to this day. Brian.
Yeah. Brian still was straight gangster on that day. I'm just gonna say,
yeah, he stood his ground.
He stood and he should have.
And that's what they do.
I mean, he's representing. He has a client. He's representing the client. Yeah,
and that's what they get paid to do. To the full extent of the law. He was gonna go through the same. But if it was me, and like I tell people, you have to see my point. If it was my child there, I would want the same. I wanted the same, response from my child, defense attorney. So
I get that.
Hands up to him. I applaud him for him standing behind his client. Right. And of course he's getting paid a lot of money. So hey, he was exactly. Yeah, I mean, because you go to the other courtroom, I'm telling you, it wouldn't have been there. If it was some other just a courtroom and it wasn't all high profile and that money was not being, it wouldn't have been. He would have held that contempt. He might have took those 10 days, or he might have told what happened.
I actually told someone on a podcast I went on, not a podcast, one of the YouTube channels, and it was either the same day that I saw the live you did the day. Was it the day of the verdict or the same day of the verdict? And they were actually talking about it. And so, they on this YouTube channel, they normally drop down a link so you could go up and talk, right? And I'm just there listening. But I had to hit the link. And I went up there and I told him, I said, you have to give her some grace. This is her child. And then I spilled my guts about, that I had a child that was murdered, so I knew da-da-da-da-da. And I told him, I said, she saw this trial out of a different lens.
Yeah, and that's what
this is her son. So she's seen it, she's from watching this for a whole different lens from than what everybody else, I said, from what they was social media. I was seeing it from a lens of just, I think the lens I was watching it from was the lens where I knew they screwed up my son's case. Right. That's what I was. That's what I was watching it from. That, you know what I mean? Right. So yeah. So I definitely understand.
And I think a lot of people were starstruck. Oh, Young Thug can't. But rappers could do just as wrong as any other. They're ordinary people like we are.
Exactly.
I mean, you do not know. I know people who know this man's history from growing up from poverty to where he's at now. I know people who know him and know how he lived in his house, how he slept in his house, and how he was deprived as a child. I know people who have taught, and I would never go back out there and put this young man's business in the streets, but this is just people I'm brought to me. The things how he lived, how his sisters lived, how his siblings lived. They had a rough life. Right. Real rough. Right. And and this just came to me maybe this year. Was it maybe last year? This lady walked up to me and told me. And she said, I did not know that was your child. I said, yes, that was my child. What was it? But she just like, you know what? She was his parents. They grew up in the same neighborhood. I'm not gonna say how they knew each other, but because I want to put anybody's business out there, because people know people to this day. But she just told me how those kids were living, and I was shocked. And my heart went on that part, but I say still, that gives nobody, reason to do the things that they did and get away with it. But you know what I told her? I said it's okay because it's a higher power we serve.
Wasn't your son and Young Thug friends at one
They
time?
were never friends. It was associates into the music life. It wasn't like, he never sat at my table. My son never sat at his table.
Okay.
He never was given to my house. My son's close friends would walk up at my house.
Okay.
And he had a lot of close friends.
Okay.
So you have never really sat at my table, eating at my table. He brought you to the house, my house. You was not his friend. That was more like a business, probably a business point or a music point, but it wasn't friends.
Okay. Gotcha.
He chose his friend. He kept his friends closer, but he kept his enemies closer.
Okay.
So that's the type of child my son. If you was his friend and he trusted you and you came to his mom's house, you sat at his mom's table and you ate.
I hear you.
So anybody else, it was like, Mom, I'm cool. I'm good out here. I'm with so and so and so, and I've heard the name, but I never had met that young man a day in my life.
So you didn't know who Young Thug was?
No.
Wow.
I heard the music because I don't listen to rap.
I don't either.
And I didn't hear about Young Thug until my baby passed, and I never heard my son say, Mom, I'm finna do music with Young Thug. I never heard Bitch on Me Quan, and I heard YSL and N.O.R.T.H.
But you never heard Young Thug.
I heard him, but I didn't listen to rap. I didn't know anything about him until they said that Young Thug had my baby killed. And I can say that, and I say that was said in his brother's arms who helped Donovan in 2015.
So that is true.
That is true. His brother, he let in his brother's arm. His brother was telling him to hold on. He said, "My Thug had me killed." So that's how I heard of Thug, 2015. That's when I knew the pictures of Thug, 2015. But I had never known this young man prior to that. Period. That young man had never. If he had been to my house, believe you me, I wasn't there. But I didn't know of him. Yep. See, so that's why I say it was just, and then it was showing the music videos with him and Thug and Rich Homie Queen,
right.
But it was just all you see was music videos. It was money. It was making money, making music, and that's what they guys do.
Right. Exactly. So let's talk about. You know what there's the aftermath of it all. And you already talked about the deep wound and how that was ripped open, 10 years after the fact. But there's the aftermath because, we go through the planning of the funeral. We go through the funeral service. The funeral's over, but this investigation is ongoing. And then almost a decade later, there's a trial. So I know that reopened, it opened that wound. And they say that this trial, the YSL trial's longest trial in Georgia, in Georgia's history. The people were all over. I mean, all over the country, all over the world were tuned in to this trial. There were several YouTube channels that were covering the trial and reporting on it to the audience. And I just can't imagine how deep that wound was for you to all this have to be revisited. All the memories come back up, all the pain, and it's on TV, it's on YouTube, and how did you navigate through that?
It was hard, and to me it was unfair because I felt they were just looking at from a trial perspective, and not as a woman losing her child too, in the sense that I lost my baby, and I was so angry with social media, CD. What's his name? All these podcast people. You just up there just going on. I was there. I was clout chasing the starstruck because they didn't know the inside of this trial and what they was not there. They were just basing it based on the evidence that the state, presented, which was understandable because it wasn't a RICO. I don't know nothing. I started reading about RICO and how they come to it to be a RICO trial with the drugs, the money, the guns, the murder, because it's gang. All it's supposed to be got gang or affiliated or related. But I was just so mad at social media because I really didn't read a lot of the comments, but I heard a lot of the comments because, a lot of my family and his kids, Donovan Kid's mother, they were in on the comments. I'm like, how can people be so heartless to a person, whether Donovan was a gangbang, go out there shooting up 10 people, or whether he was out there beating 100 people. He was unalived by a group of men. He said they paid these men to kill my baby. And how I dare them come back with all these negative opinions about a person you don't even know.
No, right.
That bothered me so much and gave me angry with just people in general, how heartless can people be until you have to see both sides.
Right.
Well, he was a gangbanger. He did this. She should know this. I should know nothing. I knew he was my child.
At the end,
And he was not a gangbanger. He didn't unalive. Do you know unalive anybody? No, I do not. So I just felt like they just really took it to a whole nother different level. It was unfair to me. It was unfair to Donovan because you didn't know Donovan. Because if you go out there and do an interview now and go to any hood, any neighborhood, you won't have not one bad thing to say about my child. And that's to this day. Even from his teacher, Donovan, kindergarten teacher, sent a letter to my house remembering him from kindergarten when he passed. His 8th grade teacher did the eulogy. Donovan, and all his teachers that remembered him and could reach out to me reached out. It was just that my baby had, and I have a video of the extra print which I found because during the process someone broke in my car, and I guess they said, "Oh, this Donovan stuff, mom stuff, whatever." They stole my whole portfolio of all his information from the service because I left it in the car when I was transitioning. But I have the video. Donovan had his funeral at Jose William Baptist Church, but Israel Baptist Church of Jose William. Okay. That church hosted 2,000 people. The fire marshal had to come shut it down.
Oh, wow.
They shut the funeral down. It was too many people there. It was just as many people on the end, and it was overwhelming for me as a parent to know that my baby had this much respect. And I know there's a lot of spectators there.
Right.
More people spectators there. You know, you had police officers, other people there, but it was just amazing to me to see that my baby had that much respect in the city where he grew up, and he really took to heart the things that we taught him as being his parents, from like his mom, his dad, his stepmom. Because you know, you're out here doing this stuff in the streets, but this is what you chose to do. It's the lifestyle you chose, but you didn't have to do all this. You know, this is when you start to go into the streets, going to doing the music gangs or whatever you thought that gang was going to put you at, that level. That's what you chose to do, and I'm gonna back you 100% as long as you're doing the right thing. So he was about feeding the community, opening up music studios because kids were into music. His next project was open up him and JT Bigger. He's a good person to talk to too. He does the podcast. He was trying to open up a music studio up here off Greenbrier. They have a place that's gonna have kids come in and make, you know how they want to make their own music, produce music, you know, just give them, you know, with the soundboard, however they do in the music studio. He was opening a music studio. That was his next goal.
So wasn't he the manager for?
He wasn't the manager.
YFN, I don't know.
It was
YFN Lucci?
Yes, he was not his manager, quote unquote.
Okay.
He introduced Lucci to the person who he needed to be to get Lucci's music signed.
Okay, so what do you think then if you, because you said your son said to your other son, his other brother, which is his other brother.
Yes, that's his stepbrother. Well,
Stepbrother.
that was his brother. I'm sorry, not stepbrother. That was his brother. So what do you think he said?
No, you were saying that when he was shot, he was saying that Thug had him killed.
Right.
What was the reason? Because that was one of the things I asked the detective about my son's case was, what was the motive?
That's what we were there at court. We still have, because you still hear all this, and they said it was for money, power. I started believing in Illuminati. I don't know if you read up on Illuminati. Sacrifices. When you get home, read up on that and see. They said my baby was being sacrificed because my baby had money, he had power. He knew too many people. And they said it was moving him out the way because Donovan knew too many people, he had too much power. And then they said it was over other people doing stuff in the streets. So they were trying to make an example, to let them know they're not nobody to mess with. So they, took the main source down, which was my son.
Okay.
So, it was so much, and that's why we still sit here to this day. I am trying to figure out why. And I did not get that question in court.
You didn't get that answer.
I didn't get that answer.
So the DA didn't ever say, okay, we charged these people, but they never said there was any motive or any reasoning behind it?
Any only reasoning we got in the motives we have gotten is just based on what people have said in the street. They moved. Thug wanted him killed because of another person had some beef with somebody, beefing. But you still haven't told me why Donovan. Because if you had a beef with John Doe, why did you kill Donovan? Why was my baby shot? Why was my baby the target? And those are questions I've been asking since day one. Right. If Donovan was not the intended target, but if you look at the news clip from 2015 when they first pulled it up, and I could pull it up on my phone. Before my baby had even passed, they said it was a news thing came across the TV, which it was because I seen it when I got home that night. Donovan Thomas was I'm just kidding, was
Right.
unalived, and they said that he was the intended target, and they knew that January 10th, 2015. And I brought that same clip and showed it to the DA, Paul Howard, in Fannin's office. I'm like, y'all, they saying he was the intended target.
Yeah, because I know when my son's investigation was going on and when it wrapped up, I asked, why? Do you know why this? What was the motive? And they knew why, and they was able to tell me why.
But see, they haven't given me a motive. And believe it, to this day, I have not got a direct answer to the reason why from the DA. I haven't got a direct reason why from any. To this day, I don't know why.
You don't know why.
Your hands.
We're almost done. So, YSL 2 trials getting ready to start.
I will not be there.
You will not be there.
I'm not partaking in it.
Okay.
They have called me. They still calling me. I don't want to hear anything about anything have to do with, because these two people, quote unquote, I'm guessing were two of the people that was in the car when the shooting took place. But you know what? I'm over it.
Right.
I don't want to go back and hear my baby name again being run through the mud about some stuff or. Oh, if I don't want to. I'm not.
So hopefully, I hope they don't do you like they did. What was it? I don't even know.
Mean subpoena me to come?
Yeah, subpoena you, and if you don't come, go to jail and all that craziness.
I mean, I'll go there and sit outside. If they subpoena me, I'll go there and sit outside the courtroom and sit in the hallway because I don't have to go sit in the courtroom.
Okay.
But I will walk in the courthouse and sit in this little, when you go into that trial, so we go through doors, they take our phones. Of course, they take your phones during that trial part of it. So when I can sit, you can sit outside. You don't have to go sit in the courtroom.
So they want you to testify again?
No.
They're just calling you to be there.
Calling me to be there.
Just to be there.
Yeah, but they know I'm not gonna be there.
Okay.
Yeah, they called me last year and this year and this.
I don't understand. Do they know how?
Yeah. Because it's not Miss Love. Miss Love, them not calling. It's the new people, new district attorneys. I think it's that white guy.
What was their name?
I can't think of their names, but they were real. They were great. They were awesome. He was in the courtroom with Miss Love at the table. The young guy.
Yeah. I can't remember their names. I know who you're talking about, to the two white guys. I think Hilton's still on though.
I haven't seen Miss Hilton in the courtroom.
I saw something one day where there was three of them. Hilton was sitting there. It was the two white guys and Hilton. And I hate to say the white guys because I can't remember their names. But Hilton was sitting up there with them on one of the So I don't know if it was a motion hearing. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if, but yeah, Hilton was sitting up there. So you won't be going. Okay.
No, I will not attend. And like I said, but I'm subpoenaed. I will go in that Fulton County Courthouse, turn my phone in and sit outside.
Right, and don't go inside the courtroom.
I won't go inside the courtroom, period.
So were you ever, through the whole trial, were you ever, any of the YouTube channels ever asked to interview you?
No, they've been asked. They were all on, yeah.
No?
What's his name? Yes, they did. Not C.D. Nash, but what's his name? Not C.D.
Black guy?
Light-skinned guy, heavy set. His name on the tip of my tongue. He asked me. He reached out. So he called me for about a month straight.
I
told him no. And you'll know who. I can't think his name.
You'll have to tell me later.
I'll tell you later.
Because I can't even picture.
He's kind of heavy set, light-skinned, older guy. Oh my God, his name is on the tip of my tongue.
Because some of the channels that I watched a lot was Infamous Sylvia.
Yeah, I don't care for Sylvia.
Okay, there's one lady she was started off here.
Sylvia been with that trial because she's friend. I think I'm not saying she's friends with YSL family, but she knows of them because she always sat with them.
Oh, okay.
Even in the breaks and things, she was always over there. Like because we went on like recess and lunch because I basically everything in the courtroom. I didn't go outside the courtroom, outside the building.
What about a lead attorney? That was one I used to watch too. He's a lawyer.
I'm not familiar.
He used to be a lawyer. He's now YouTube thing.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with him either. It wasn't him. It was not C.D. Nash. It was, he's on the tip of my tongue.
Oh, Seti Nash. I watch his channel sometimes.
I met him at court.
Okay.
He came and introduced himself.
Okay.
Believe it or not, he walked up and introduced himself to me.
Okay. What'd you think about him?
I think he should have been a lawyer, defense attorney.
Oh, really?
I
Really?
really think he should have been up on the stand because he was so opinionated on everything that happened, and he always cut his clip to get to the point where this was he was very into this trial.
Yeah, I watch him.
Yeah.
But, I can't think of anybody else who I watched because there were so many of them covering it. There was a Cat Not Williams, a white lady out. I can't even think of where she was out of. There was a white guy that I really liked, and he broke it down really good. And I don't even know if he's from Atlanta. I don't think so, but Cuff Boy.
Okay, I heard it.
He did a very good job breaking stuff down. And then I don't know who on Twitter, somebody, what was he called himself? Thugger Daily?
Yeah, I heard about him.
Yeah, they was all of them, the YouTubers.
His name was George something. George Sheedy.
Oh, he's actually a journalist.
He bothered me for too much straight. He got on my nerve.
Yeah,
his people kept calling me. They even went down to the barbershop when Donovan was unalived and interviewed the people at the barbershop. And I walked up on him. I'm like, please do not put rumors out there on my child if you don't know.
Right.
I had to tell him, I said, because he was Donovan was some type of informant. I said, you don't know nothing about, because Donovan was no informant.
You know what? He did an interview with Vlad TV, and I watched it, and they mentioned that, and Vlad brought it up and said that it had been corrected, and I don't want to put nothing out there about him that's not right.
Yeah,
I
got into. I said, don't you ever.
Yeah.
And I walked up onto him, and he got my number. He had his team follow me, and they called me for almost too much straight, but I didn't.
Yeah, he's a journalist.
I didn't want to talk to anybody though, because I was like, you already just gave me drew a picture. I painted a picture of somebody you don't even know.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I was very upset with him. You should have came to the, I tell people, come to the source. And like you just came to the source. You came to me. And I was so upset because I'm like, come to the source. Because if you had to see the source want to talk to you. But now you have already went to other sources and drawn your picture of somebody you didn't even know. So I don't want to talk to you.
Right.
But he reached out a lot. He saw me he sat behind me in the courtroom several occasions. And I spoke and I kept it cordial, but I did not interview with him. I didn't talk to him.
Well, I'm glad that you came to N.O.R.T.H, Never Obtain Rank Through Hate platform, so we can get this jumped off.
Right, and we can go further.
And we're going to run with this.
And people can hear my side and hear other people's side. If I want to bring other people in and talk on Donovan's behalf, I can do that because that's what we need to do.
Exactly.
And that's the point I'm going to get to.
Well, I want to thank you for coming and joining me for lunch. I've enjoyed this.
Thank you for having me and inviting me to lunch.
Yeah, we're going to get together again. Is there anything else that you want to say that that we didn't say during this conversation?
I'm pretty sure some more stuff will come out later, but right now I think we kind of covered. Okay. We covered a lot today.
Well, I thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank
you. And thank you, Camber Lady back there.